Today's guest is a supporting sponsor of Liberty in Finance. Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. We have a first-time guest today. Steve Swatton is the president, CEO, and director of K2 Gold. He's joining us this first time Tuesday, November 16, 2021. Steve, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks very much, Donegan.
When I say coming back on, it's because on behalf of Discovery Group, we've had several of the member companies, starting with Jim Peterson, and then also we've also had Kodiak Copper. We've had a number of others on there as well, Elemental Royalties and so on. But this is the first time we've ever spoken with K2 Gold. And one of the things we wanted to get you to give us an insider's view of as a official treasure hunter is what is the overall status of the gold supply. We've been told by others that there's been a real decade or more long of underinvestment in exploration development in the precious metals mining industry. And we're wondering if you can help us understand what is the current status of availability of gold and what is K2 trying to do about it?
Yeah, well, look, gold has been explored since the time of the Romans and even before that. And in the last 10 years, it's absolutely true, since 2008 financial crisis, and that there has been a lack of, I would say, focused exploration into the gold mining sector or gold exploration sector. But I think what's happening, the recent trend, is that more people are getting more selective as to where they're going to be looking. I mean, we even changed our focus from the Yukon down to California for the real reason that there was more mineral potential. Yeah, in my past life, I used to work for BHP, and we used to study the supply-demand situation to, in every single product that we were looking at. And at the time, it was gold. And it is clear that there is less large gold deposits being found and many, many more smaller ones. So the chance of 1 million plus gold deposit being actually discovered is getting rarer. And this area that we're exploring in Southern California was actually discovered by Newmont in the mid 80s, and then followed up with BHP in the 90s. I wasn't with BHP at the time, but I do know some people who worked on this project, and it was touted as being a significant discovery. And then for various reasons, it was not explored until relatively recently. And we are the first major explorers in this area, I would say, for the past 15, 20 years. The location, for people who don't know, is LA and Las Vegas. So we're somewhere in the middle, just on the Californian side, and we're close to a town called Lone Pine. It's a very small town, 1,800 people. And the type of resource we're looking at is an epithermal gold play, and it's roughly about 2 kilometers by a few hundred meters wide. And it's in a fairly remote district on the western edge of Death Valley Park, but we're outside of the park, well outside of the park. It's in an area that is very rarely visited, but it has been known in the past. And what I'd like to emphasize is not only have we discovered gold, but we found significant copper now at the location.
There's just a press release that just came out yesterday, I understand, about extensive significant expansion of the known resources there. The title of the press release is K2 significantly expands the mineralized footprint at the Mojave Gold Copper Project. So help us understand the meaning and the impact of this new release you just came out with yesterday.
Yeah, so last year we drilled on 4 sites, and we expanded upon what was already known by BHP and Newmont. But what we did in the interim, whilst we're waiting for our second phase of drilling, which we're hoping to start in Q2 of next year, is we extended all of the soil grids. We did geophysics. We did even ionic leach, which is a particular type of exploration you do when you don't have good soil cover. And we had some theories as to how the epithermal gold was occurring there. And it just so, as a result of our exploration, we've extended all of the known areas by at least 1 kilometer when it comes to the gold, and about the same for a parallel copper area, which is probably about 500 meters west of the known gold, 500 to 1 kilometer west of the known gold. So what we have here is a very exciting play where not only we got a very distinct gold trend, which has been known in the past and drilled in the past, and we sort of, if you like, reiterated what was found in the past. We've also now discovered there was some talk of copper in the area. There's some old reports with some copper numbers, but we've had up to 14% copper now discovered in sediment hosted to the western side. So this press release really talks about, how this area is not only just one relatively small area with the gold. It's roughly 10 kilometers by 6 kilometers, and it's almost like a sponge where the hot fluids have come up from underneath, deposited the gold, but also there's a copper zone, but there's also base metals over the whole area. There is some mineralization. It's absolutely phenomenal. I personally, I've never worked on a deposit like it in my 30 years in exploration, where so much mineralization is evident. Now, obviously, we will not know if it's economic until we do more work, but the signs are very positive at the stage.
There are some numbers quoted I see in the press release, such as the Stega area with over 1,000 parts per billion gold found, and some samples up to 15,000 parts per billion gold. Soda Canyon with samples up to almost 2,500 parts per billion of gold. Your assessment of the promise and the reason that you're finding the promise that you're seeing there, what is it telling you about the future additional exploration you're going to be doing in the area, or the promise of the area you've already defined?
Well, those areas that you're stating there are actually outside of the area that is of most interest in the past. So I would say that we found a parallel trend which is equally, if not better, than the one we're already exploring. So yes, I mean, those numbers that you just quoted are soils, and they're phenomenal. Usually in soils, you just got a few ppb, not thousands of ppb. So what that's telling you is that the mineralization is very close to surface. Whatever we're looking at is beneath the soil horizon, but not very far away. So we do feel as if we've literally only just scratched the surface of this area. It's very exciting.
In the past, when we've spoken with analysts such as Rick Rule about the management teams and their track record of being able to do what is necessary to bring the value out of promising areas, he said you give good people even mediocre rocks and they'll bring good things out of it. You give good rocks to the wrong people and they may not get the full value out of it. So how has the leadership team at K2 demonstrated their ability in the past to prove and be able to do this exploration and move things forward to make them development ready?
Well, one of the greatest things about working in a group like the Discovery Group is we have a whole swath of geologists with different backgrounds, and we all share ideas and we share our experiences back in the office in Vancouver. And this is actually, I'm not quite sure if you're aware of this, but Great Bear's CEO, Chris Taylor, was one of the guys who worked on this before us. And he, in a previous life with Great Bear, it was in Great Bear, this asset, but he couldn't raise the money on it. Now, his type of leadership, he's actually an advisor to the company, is actually crucial to the type of, if you like, credibility that we get. Obviously, he's having now some success with his property in Ontario. And as a result of him giving it, if you like, his attention, and with John Robbins, who's the chairman, and his extremely sort of wide tentacles and knowledge of both the financial markets and the geology, we've been able to raise sufficient capital. The last time we did a financing, we did a $7 million bought deal, and it took about 4 hours. And that's the strength of the group, is that it raises capital really easy if the asset obviously deserves it, because we have the right management with the right experience and also network like Jim Paterson and John Robbins that can bring in the finance. My job as CEO is just to make sure the company is run properly. And obviously the board, they're the ones like Craig Roberts, he's with Newfound Gold right now. I mean, they have a track history of raising money for good projects.
In order for an exploration to really pay out, it needs to be developed. I see one of the last lines in the press release that just came out yesterday. The decision to permit the next phase of drilling continues to advance through the Bureau of Land Management's review process. Can you talk to us about the permitting and what's next or what's ahead in that? And are there difficulties you're expecting?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Working in California is challenging. There is BLM rules that apply to absolutely every state in the United States, but they're interpreted in slightly different ways, and the process takes slightly longer. This has been, I would say, the Achilles heel of this particular project that we have, is that the progress has been slow. But one thing I wanted to point out is that there is a process, and providing you follow the process, you will get through the process. What we've done is we've done all of the necessary environmental work. We've done studies on cultural issues. We've interacted with the First Nations, the tribes down there. And I would argue that we've done as good a job as you could do, but we are always hampered by the speed at which our permits go through the BLM. In some places like Nevada, the permitting process is quicker. In California, it's slower. It's the same process. It just takes different time. So my point is that we will get the permits to drill the next round. It's just going to take a little longer than it would anywhere else. So the shareholder has to be somewhat patient. But I will, at this stage, say that we've also got our eye on 2 or 3 other properties in Nevada, so that we have a little bit more of a, security that if one of the projects is going a little slower, another one will go a little faster. So we're actually actively looking at 2 or 3 projects in Southwest US, but not in California, to make sure that we have a balanced portfolio. And in addition, we have the one property in the Yukon, which we may well go back into next year. The reason we haven't worked on it is because the actual geological potential of California is immensely better at this stage of exploration.
What typical timelines? I know you can't commit to that in full at this point because there's so much more definition left to be done. But what kind of timeline is customary to move from the stage that K2 is at right now in their California site to where you'd actually be able to, investors and others who are watching would be able to see development wrapping up and production starting?
Well, there won't be any production starting anytime soon down there, but usually when you apply for a drill permit, whether it's in the Yukon or it's in Ontario or Quebec or even in Arizona or Nevada, you typically can wait anywhere between 2 and maybe 2 weeks to 3 months to get a permit. Unfortunately, in California, it's taking almost double that time. So we applied for another drill program of 30 sites, and we applied in September of this year, sorry. And it's probably going to be Q2 of next year when we'll get to drill it. But in the meantime, as I say, we've got our eye on a few other projects, but this one's going to keep bubbling in the background. It's got multi-million gold potential, in my opinion. And if we could actually give it a good crack with a 100-site program, it would look quite a lot different than it is right now. So the permitting process, although it's slow, you've got assurance that you will be able to carry it through, providing that you submit all the necessary documents to the BLM. And so far, we've done everything that's required of us.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned along the way there was the power of the discovery group as a whole, being able to bring in those resources, the people who have the experience taking things through that process, all the various steps of the process, not only funding, but also permitting and so on. We've talked with other members of Discovery Group along the way. And in fact, mentioning Rick Rule again, he had mentioned that that's one of the strengths that he sees of Discovery Group is the synergistic effects of being able to get the right things brought to bear to get the job done at the time. Any thoughts you have on, I guess, some specific examples of that, where you've been able to use the power of the Discovery Group to overcome barriers that otherwise would have been roadblocks to a smaller company who didn't have those resources?
I'll tell you one of the best things about working at Discovery Group is because there's a few gray-haired people like myself in there. I've been an analyst in the past. I've worked for Rio Tinto and BHP. So we have the ability to draw on projects from both major companies from minor companies. Junior companies want to do deals with somebody in the discovery group because they know that we can raise the finance and we do good geology. So the plethora of different projects that are thrown at us is incredible. And eventually you'll find one or two that you like. And that is the beauty of working in the discovery group. You rarely have to go out looking for a good project. A good project will come to us. And then we work out internally how we're going to raise the money for it. We don't have to go and outsource any of this. We have great geologists. We have people who are known in the finance. And when it comes time to sell it on to somebody, if ever we got to that stage, we also have great contacts within the major companies like myself. I mean, I'm talking to one of the largest companies in US right now about a project. And that's simply because of the contacts that I have within that group.
Another thing that people are interested about when they're getting involved with investing and trying to, or speculating, and trying to make sure that they've got the bases covered there, is they're interested in the upside potential that can come from being in at the ground floor, prior to a rapid growth phase, or some of that fruit bearing phase that you're talking about, where you can sell off assets, that sort of thing. In this case, there's a big trade-off for people when they go to invest in a company. If they invest in a very small company, then there may be very limited intellectual property resources and so on that company has to bear. So it's definitely a needle in a haystack problem. But again, Discovery Group might help from an investor's outlook. Can you talk to us about why investors would benefit from participating in ownership of K2 Gold, given that it's not like other companies of its size, because of its participation in discovery?
I think one of the main things is that whatever project we're working on, if it's having its challenges, we will find and we will overcome. We will find another project and we will overcome the difficulties in raising finance. And this is one of the key things. I mean, a lot of the smaller companies, with a similar market cap to us, may well struggle because the feeling is there's a lack of, for want of a better word, a lack of sort of foresight to see, okay, where are we going to go with the next stage of the program? What is the company going to look like 6 months from now? We're already talking 6 months, 1 year from now. We have projects that we've outlined that we'd like to be involved in. And in the meantime, the best project we have is Conglomerate Mesa. It's the property that we just put the release out on. But we're not going to sit on our laurels and wait for it. We'll be able to raise the money for any other project that we bring into it. This is the beauty of working within the group that we're in, is that if the solution isn't being solved at the time, we will solve that problem that there is by either bringing in another project or raising capital at high levels.
For people who want to find out more about K2 Gold, we'll certainly put the link to the corporate website in the description of this video. We'll also put a link to the press release that just came out yesterday that we've been discussing about this expansion of the defined mineral asset that's there. Any other suggestions you have for people who want to find out more about K2 Gold?
No, I mean, either call me directly or Dustin Zinger, who's the IR person. I mean, everybody in our office knows quite a bit about everyone else's companies. So whoever you speak to at Discovery, that's the great thing about working at Discovery. We all know quite a lot about what each other's doing. I mean, obviously, with Great Bear, I'm knowing a little bit less these days. I mean, they seem to be moving into a different phase in their development. But all of the junior companies like Kodiak and Valor, we all know because we all sit around. We actually still have a communal office down there where we all sort of talk across the table as we don't do Zoom calls because we're right there. So yes, I mean, call the office, go on the website. Hopefully everything will be on the website. We're just updating our PowerPoint right now to be a little more current. But by all means, call either Dustin or myself. Just a reminder to everyone, we are speaking with Steve Swatton. He's the president, CEO, and director of K2 Gold, and he's joining us this first time ever on Liberty and Finance. Steve, it's been a pleasure, and our viewers tend to be highly interested in outsized opportunities that they can take positions in because they are looking forward to what potentially, if we believe what many of the analysts such as Rick Rule, Pamela and Marianne Aiden from the Aiden Forecast, and others have told us that we're still in the mid-innings of a very
major bull market in precious metals, and they're looking forward to participants who have the right stuff to play a significant role in that going forward. Just really appreciate you introducing K2 Gold to our subscribers and for being here with us this first time on Liberty and Finance.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.